The air in Miller's general store hadn't stirred since I was a kid, dusty, thick with the scent of old wood and motor oil, and so still it felt like time had hit the pause button. I dragged my fingers along the shelves, their edges smoothed by years of my touch, and for a split second, I could almost see Dad shuffling out from the back room. Apron streaked with coffee and engine grease, that lopsided grin crinkling his eyes. He'd be whistling Sinatra, off-key, always off-key, but somehow perfect in its imperfection. I could hear it now, faint as a memory, the way he'd hum Fly Me to the Moon, while tinkering with the ancient radio behind the counter, his big hands steady even when the world wasn't. Once, when I was 8, he'd hoisted me onto that counter, handed me a root beer float, and said, "This place is ours, wood, nails, and all." But he wasn't there. 6 months ago, cancer had taken him, swift, ruthless, leaving nothing but echoes and an empty store. In his place stood my brother Ryan and sister Vanessa, a cloud of cologne and big city scorn wafting off them like they'd just stepped off a private jet instead of a rented Toyota. "You cannot be serious," Ryan snapped, his voice slicing through the quiet like a buzzsaw through pine. He adjusted the cuffs of his tailored suit, probably worth more than every rusted pickup in Cedar Grove combined. "The assessor valued this dump at 48 grand, Emily. Your share of Dad's accounts is 6 times that. Take the money and stop playing small-town saint." I turned, jaw clenched, so tight I could taste metal. "I've made my decision." Vanessa threw up her hands, her manicured nails flashing like little warning lights, bracelets jangling like coins in a slot machine. "You're tossing $300,000 for a rotting shack in a nowhere town. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me?" I wanted to scream until the windows rattled. "What's wrong with you too?" Instead, I kept my voice low, rage that deep doesn't need to shout. "You two flew in for the will reading, stayed just long enough to sign papers and smirk. I never left. I was here when Dad's hands shook too bad to lift a box, when the roof caved in during that April storm, when we couldn't stock half these shelves because the bills outran the profits. This store was his life. It meant something." "He's dead," Ryan said, cold as a Wall Street ticker. "And nostalgia doesn't keep the lights on." His words hit like a slap. Typical Ryan, golden boy of finance, too slick for dirt under his nails. And Vanessa? LA lawyer with a corner office and a habit of calling Cedar Grove flyover country like it was a punchline. They'd bolted years ago, chasing skyscrapers and status. I'd stayed, rooted here like the oak out front. And now they wanted me to walk away like it was all just a bad bet? "I'm keeping the store," I said, voice flat as the counter I slid behind. "Split the rest. I don't care." "You will care," Vanessa hissed, stepping closer, her heels clicking like a countdown. "When this place sucks your savings dry and you're begging us for scraps." "No," I said, staring her down. "I won't." They stormed out, a whirlwind of perfume and judgment, the bell above the door jangling like a taunt. I stood there, fists trembling, the silence crashing back in. My siblings thought I was a fool, a sentimental sap who couldn't crunch numbers. They didn't know me, not even a little, but they'd find out. The bell's echo lingered long after their car peeled out, tires spitting gravel into the dusk. I was alone again, the store's quiet hum wrapping around me like an old quilt. Then came a familiar rasp. "You sure about this, Em?" Mr. Whitaker, family lawyer, lifelong friend, and the only adult who'd ever seen past my shyness, shuffled out from the back office. He tugged at his bow tie, a nervous tic he'd had since I was 10, when he'd caught me sneaking licorice from the candy jars and just winked instead of telling Dad. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I hauled a thick folder from my beat-up canvas bag and dropped it on the counter with a thud that sent dust motes dancing. "You know about the highway proposal?" He blinked, adjusting his glasses. "That expansion thing? Just a rumor, last I heard." "It's not a rumor," I said, flipping the folder open. "It's a done deal." Maps spilled out, crisp, official, dotted with red lines and blue stamps. Surveys. Traffic flow charts. Environmental reports. And on top, a preliminary approval from the Department of Transportation, a new Interstate 78 exit ramp, half a mile from Miller's General Store. Whitaker's jaw went slack as he sifted through the pages. Where the hell did you get all this? I grinned, just a flicker. While Ryan was gaming hedge funds and Vanessa was billing six figures, I was at every town council meeting. Joined the zoning committee. Made friends with the city planning clerks, brought them coffee, asked the right questions. Nobody notices the quiet girl scribbling in the back row. He looked up, eyes wide with something like wonder. Emily, this is massive. This changes everything. Damn straight, I said, tapping the map. 6 weeks from now, they announce it. Property values here will blow up. Commercial lots like this, main road access, parking history, they'll be worth millions. Whitaker scanned the store, its dusty shelves suddenly shimmering with possibility. Do Ryan and Vanessa know? Not a clue, I said, voice cool as the November air outside. They think I picked a dying store over cash. Let them. He chuckled, a rare, dry sound. Your dad he knew, didn't he? That's why he changed the will last month. I nodded, throat tightening. He couldn't say it, not with them hovering, picking apart his every word. But he left me hints, trusted me to see it through. Silence settled, heavy with meaning. I thought of Dad again. How he'd sit me on this counter as a kid, handing me a root beer float while he balanced the books, humming that damn Sinatra tune. He'd always said, this place is more than wood and nails, it's us. I'm not selling, I said finally. I'm building something. Dad didn't just leave me a store, he left me a chance. Whitaker smiled, a real one this time. I always knew you were more than they gave you credit for. I glanced at the maps, that bold black line snaking towards Cedar Grove like a lifeline. Let them underestimate me, I whispered, mostly to myself. I've been planning this for years. Renovation started on a Monday, so cold my breath fogged the windows. Jake Turner's crew rolled in at sunrise, pickup trucks crunching frost, and the first sound was a crowbar tearing into the old shelves, a shriek that felt like it ripped right through me. Dust exploded, swirling like ghosts of 1,000 childhood afternoons spent trailing Dad through these aisles. Part of me wanted to yell, stop, put it back, to cling to the store I'd known. But I didn't, because I could see what was coming. You're certifiable, Jake muttered, cradling a coffee mug and squinting at my blueprints. His flannel was rolled to the elbows, sawdust already clinging to his jeans. You know that, right? Probably, I said, flipping through my checklist, new flooring, LEDs, coffee bar, loading dock. But look at this. I pointed to the plans. Wider aisles, modern shelving, a parking lot twice the size. 2 years, Jake. This'll be the first stop off the interstate. Thousands of cars a day. He whistled low. Bold as hell, You used to like bold, I said before I could stop myself. His eyes, blue as the sky over the ridge, locked on mine, a flicker of something old and unspoken passing between us. We'd been close once back in high school, before he left for trade school, and I stayed to help Dad. He smirked, said nothing, and went back to work. We moved fast after that, a quiet rhythm only two people with history can pull off, tense, thick with what-ifs, but smooth. Jake was the best contractor in 3 counties, and I needed this done before the highway news hit and every crew turned into a price-gouging vulture. By Wednesday, we had our first mini-win. The old flickering lights were gone, swapped for LEDs that bathed the store in a warm, clean glow. Mrs. Parker stopped by with a tin of oatmeal cookies and gasped, "It's like a whole new place already." "Baby steps," I said, but inside, I was buzzing like a kid on Christmas. Friday brought another small victory. The coffee bar brewed its first espresso. Jake took a sip, raised an eyebrow, and said, "Damn, that's good enough to charge $5 for." I laughed, first time in weeks, and marked it down as a win. Even old man Henderson, who'd grumbled about fancy nonsense, shuffled over and ordered one, muttering, "Not half bad." The town, though? They weren't sold. The whispers started quick. "She's dumping money into a sinking ship. Heard she turned down a cash offer again. Always was a little odd, that Emily. I smiled at every customer, bought lumber from Hank's mill down the road, hired local teens to sweep up sawdust. Didn't matter. To them, I was Emily the fool, chasing a pipe dream while the world moved on. A week in, we hit another milestone. The creaky floor turned honey gold under fresh varnish. Jake ran his hand over it and grinned. Smooth as a baby's backside. I rolled my eyes but couldn't hide my smile. Mrs. Carter brought in her first batch of candles, lavender and pine, and they sold out by noon. Folks like local, she said, beaming. Another win. But the grumbling grew louder. Old-timers muttered about tradition being gutted. Families whispered I was getting too big for my britches. Developers called daily, their offers creeping up, 50 grand, 60, 75. I hung up every time. The doubt cut deeper than I'd admit, but I kept going. You're bleeding cash, Pete, my accountant, warned after 5 weeks. He pushed his glasses up, frowning at the numbers. The store's barely breaking even with these upgrades. You've got less than $1,000 left, Emily. One more hit and you're done. It'll pay off, I said, teeth gritted, though my stomach twisted. Just wait. We pressed on. Shelves widened, stocked with local jams, soaps, even handmade quilts from the women's co-op. We added touchless kiosks. Henderson called them damn robot nonsense, but I knew they'd be ready for the flood of new faces soon. The coffee bar started pulling in regulars, truckers, moms, even Pastor Jim, who joked, "This beats the church potluck brew." Then came a test. Mrs. Parker caught me locking up one night, her scarf fluttering in the wind. "Emily, I heard developers are offering big money along Main. You're not selling?" "No, ma'am," I said, meeting her worried eyes. "This isn't about flipping property. It's about building something this town needs. Something Dad believed in." She hesitated, then squeezed my arm. "You're a stubborn one. Like him. I hope it works." The night before the highway announcement, I broke. It was late, the store empty, the renovations nearly finished, but my finances in ruins. I stood at the checkout, staring at the screen, negative $128.46. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from the bank. "Ms. Dawson, your account's overdrawn. You've got 48 hours before we freeze it. Call us." Then Jake knocked, apologetic but firm. "Crew needs pay by tomorrow, or they walk." I nodded, numb, and after he left, I pulled Dad's old pocket knife from my bag, the one he'd given me at 10, scratched with Edie from a day we'd carved initials into the oak out front. I'd promised myself I'd never part with it, but I drove to Hank's mill anyway, sold it for $200 cash to cover the crew, and handed Jake the money at dawn with a hollow "Don't ask." Back at the store, I sank behind the counter, clutching Dad's ledger, its pages brittle and stained. "I can't lose this," I sobbed, the words choking out. "I gave up everything, your knife, my savings, me. What if it's not enough?" The highway was coming. I had the papers. But what if I'd miscalculated? What if it was too late? Curled against the counter, tears blurring the ledger's ink, I felt the dream slip away, a failure staring back at me in the dark. The highway announcement dawned cloaked in fog and tension. I stood behind the counter, heart pounding like a jackhammer, still raw from the night before. State officials bustled across the street. Podium, banners, a crowd swelling by the minute. Cedar Grove, gateway to the future, the signs read. TV vans lined Main Street. Reporters sipped coffee from travel mugs. Locals squinted, half curious, half skeptical. Jake leaned against the window, arms crossed. "Big turnout. They don't know what's about to hit him," I said, gripping the counter so hard my knuckles whitened, shoving the despair down one last time. My phone buzzed. "Ryan, 6 call today." Vanessa's emails stacked up. "Urgent family matter." "You're making a mistake." I ignored them all. Mr. Whitaker burst in, tie askew, face pale. "Trouble, big trouble. Your siblings didn't just file an injunction. They've been working a side deal, signed a contract to sell the access rights to the vacant lot next door to Apex Retail, cutting off your expansion space. And Vanessa locked in an exclusive supply deal with Carter Farms, your jam and candle supplier, starting next week. They're choking you out. I froze. The air sucked out of me. They what? Found out this morning, Whitaker said, wiping his brow. They've got a shark from Blackwood and Reed pushing it through, fast. I laughed, a jagged, dangerous sound, fury overtaking the exhaustion. Blackwood and Reed, huh? That's their play. I reached under the counter, pulled out a slim folder I'd kept hidden for weeks, and slapped it in front of Whitaker. I hired Blackwood and Reed 10 days ago, quietly. They've been drafting my franchise contracts with Apex. And this, I tapped the folder, is a notarized easement Dad signed years ago, giving the store perpetual rights to that lot's access. Ryan and Vanessa's deal? Dead on arrival. As for Carter Farms, I've got a handshake agreement with Mrs. Carter from last month, predates their contract. Vanessa's fancy paperwork doesn't stand a chance in court. Whitaker's eyes widened, then he grinned. You're a damn genius, Emily. They thought they had you cornered. They thought wrong, I said, smirking, the fire back in my veins. Checkmate. The mayor's mic crackled outside. Here it comes, I whispered, turning as the crowd hushed. The mayor cleared his throat. Cedar Grove's been selected for a key exit on Interstate 78, just east of Main Street. Estimated daily traffic, 15,000 vehicles. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Heads swiveled toward my store. Realization dawned like a sunrise, and the weight lifted, sharp and sudden, like a rope snapping free. My phone exploded. Developers, investors, Ryan, Vanessa. I silenced it. Emily. Jake called from the back. You've got company. 3 men in suits stood by the loading dock. Apex Retail Group execs. James Whitmore, the oldest, extended a hand, oblivious to the morning's chaos. Miss Dawson, we've been tracking your moves. Good for you, I said, voice cool as glass, adrenaline surging. 2 hours later, we had a deal. Multi-million-dollar franchise offer, partnership, my terms, Miller's name stays, local control, indie distribution included. I casually mentioned the easement. Whitmore shrugged off Ryan's botched deal like it was nothing. We're betting on you, he said. Jake gaped as they left. You planned all this? I smiled at the stunned faces outside, the victory washing away the night's despair. Every single step. A black Mercedes purred into the parking lot that afternoon, tires crunching fresh gravel. Ryan and Vanessa stepped out, polished but rattled. They walked into my store, coffee bar humming, customers browsing, warehouse buzzing, and stopped dead, their eyes darting over the transformation like they'd stumbled into someone else's dream. I took my time coming downstairs, boots thudding on the new oak steps. Well, Cedar Grove's suddenly worth the trip. Ryan's jaw tightened, his cufflinks glinting as he crossed his arms. Don't gloat, Emily. We're here to talk. Talk. I raised an eyebrow, leaning against the counter. You mean about the lot you tried to sell out from under me? Or the supply deal you thought would strangle my stock? Vanessa paled, but Ryan's eyes flashed. You think you're untouchable now, don't you? He snapped, stepping closer. We had every right. No. I cut in, voice like steel. You had nothing. I've got the easement Dad signed, legal, binding, and older than your scheme. And Mrs. Carter? She's been mine since before you even thought to call her. Your lawyer's scrambling to explain why Blackwood and Reed just dumped you. Face it, you swung, you missed. He laughed, a harsh, bitter sound, and ran a hand through his hair. God damn it, Emily, you're infuriating. Yes, we saw the news. Yes, we know what this place is worth now. But that's not. He stopped, jaw clenching, the words fighting their way out like they burned his throat. We were wrong, okay? About the store. About you. About Dad. I blinked, caught off guard, but kept my guard up. Wrong how? Vanessa stepped forward, her heels clicking softer now, her face tight with something I hadn't seen before, uncertainty. We thought you were crazy, clinging to this place out of some naive loyalty. We didn't get it. I didn't get it. She swallowed, her voice dropping. But seeing this, what you've built, It's not just about money, is it? No, I said, folding my arms. It never was. You'd know that if you'd stuck around. Ryan flinched, just barely, but I caught it. We should've, he said, quieter now, the fight draining out of him. I should've. Dad came to me last spring with sketches, plans for this place. Wanted my advice. I told him it was a waste of time, that Cedar Grove was a dead end. He looked away, staring at the polished floor. I was wrong about that too. Vanessa handed me a manila folder, her fingers trembling slightly. He gave this to Ryan. Look. Inside were sketches, Dad's handwriting, shaky but sure. Floor plans. Warehouse additions. A parking layout. Almost identical to mine. I swallowed hard, the paper crinkling under my grip. He showed you this? Yeah, Ryan said, voice rough. I brushed him off. Told him to sell. He didn't argue, just nodded and walked away. I thought he'd given up. He met my eyes, and for the first time, I saw something raw there. He didn't. He gave it to you instead. You didn't believe in him, I said, barely above a whisper. No, Vanessa admitted, her voice breaking just a little. And we didn't believe in you. But he did. And now, she gestured at the store, the bustling life around us. Now we do. Ryan pulled out investment papers, holding them out like a peace offering. We want in. Minority shares, no control. Your terms. Not because of the money, though yeah, it's a hell of a deal, but because he hesitated, the words sticking again. Because your family, and we screwed up. I stared at them, the siblings who'd laughed in my face now standing here, stripped of their armor, fighting to say the right thing. It wasn't just about the store anymore, it was about us, about years of distance and dismissal. I let the silence stretch, watching them shift under it. I'll think about it, I said finally, voice level. But understand this. This isn't a second chance at the store. It's a second chance with me. Don't waste it. They nodded, Ryan's shoulders slumping slightly, Vanessa's eyes glistening but holding back. She lingered as they turned to go. That day at the will reading, we thought you were stuck in the past. Nope, I said, a faint smile tugging my lips. I was banking on the future. They left, and I turned to Dad's photo behind the counter, him in that stained apron, grinning mid-whistle. We did it, I whispered. 1 year later, the parking lot was a festival, food trucks, live music, kids chasing fireflies under string lights. Dawson's General Store, Apex partner since 1952, glowed above me. Cars clogged the highway exit, locals, travelers, families moving to Cedar Grove for the first time in decades. Jake sidled up, brushing sawdust off his shirt. You seeing this? I nodded, throat tight. The town was alive, new cafes, a daycare, a tech shop. Property values had tripled. The school was expanding. My store anchored it all. We did it, Jake said. Team effort, I corrected, catching his grin. My phone buzzed, Vanessa. Dad would be proud. Ryan. Investors want expansion. Call me. I didn't reply yet. They were partners now, silent, respectful, changed. The mayor handed me a giant key to the city, cameras flashing. But the real moment came later, alone in my office, Dad's desk under my hands, his sketches in the drawer. Emily will know, he'd written. Tears pricked as I traced the ink. Then I heard it, a knock. Jake poked his head in. Found something you need to see. I followed him to the warehouse, where his crew had torn out a wall for the latest expansion. Behind it, hidden in the studs, was a metal box, rusted, locked, with ED scratched on top. My initials. Emily Dawson. What the hell? I muttered, prying it open with a crowbar. Inside was a letter, a faded map, $50,000 in cash, and a deed to 10 acres behind the store. Dad's handwriting, dated 2 years ago, stared back at me. Emily, my dreamer. If you're reading this, you've unearthed the heart of this place and your own. You always saw the cracks, kid, not because you feared the collapse, but because you knew how to build something stronger from them. That's what sets you apart. I heard about the highway over a poker game with Whitaker. Old fool couldn't keep a secret after 3 beers. I kept it quiet, knowing Ryan and Vanessa would pounce. The cash and land are yours, but look at the map. It's my old dream. Satellite stores along the ridge, a chain rooted right here. You'll know where to start. You didn't inherit a store, Em. You inherited a legacy. Build it tall enough to touch the moon for me. I unfolded the map. Yellowed, edges curling, marked with Dad's careful pencil lines, 5 spots along the highway's future path, each circled with Miller's Outpost in a scrawl. A final note was pinned to it. For my dreamer, start here. It pointed to the 10 acres. The twist hit me like a thunderclap. Dad hadn't just left me money and land. He'd left me his vision, a blueprint for something bigger than I dared imagine. He'd seen the cracks in Cedar Grove's future and trusted me to build a constellation of stores from them, a legacy stretching beyond this one lot. My hands shook as I traced the lines, his dream merging with mine. I laughed, tears streaming, as Jake stared. What's so funny? He played the long game too, I said, clutching the letter and map, the weight of his faith crashing over me. And he bet on me. 2 weeks later, I broke ground on the 10 acres. Warehouses, a farmer's market, a truck stop, the first Miller's Outpost in Dad's plan. The cash fueled it all, no loans needed. Ryan and Vanessa gaped when I showed them the map, but they didn't push, just nodded, awed. The store hummed, the town thrived, and I stood under that glowing sign, Dad's photo watching over me. They'd been wrong about the store, about me. Sometimes, the quiet ones don't just shape the future, they rewrite it. If you loved this tale of grit, secrets, and triumph, especially that twist with Dad's hidden dream, hit that subscribe button. I've got more stories of underdogs pulling off the impossible, and I'd love for you to stick around for the next one.